James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.
My name's Graham Field and I do, I suppose, what you call medium length overland trips on a relatively small budget, and I write books about it. I write a KLR 650 which I bought off of eBay for £700. It was advertised in the wrong category, so I was the only bidder and got a bit of a bargain. I was obsessed with a TV show called Deal or No Deal, to the point where I couldn't actually sleep at night wondering about what I would deal on and what I wouldn't, depending on various amounts I'd have in my boxes. And the only way I thought to get over this obsession was to actually apply to be on the programme, and that's what happened. And on the application form, one of the questions is, what would you do if you won a significant amount of money? And I rather flippantly said that I would do a motorcycle trip that would make Charlie and Ewan look like a trip to Tesco's, which I regretted when they then broadcast that, and I sort of felt committed because it had just been put over national TV. So it was time to put my money where my mouth was. I won £5,000, which was actually an ideal amount. Nobody begrudges you a win of £5,000. It was a perfect amount of money. I was really happy with it. And that was my budget. It was a 15,000 mile trip that I ended up doing, and it was a 100-day trip, so it worked out at £50 a day. That was my budget, £5,000. Well, they're both in diary format. One constant in my life is that I've kept a diary for 25 years. It's the one discipline I have every single day of my life for the last 25 years. I've documented, and like anything that's done repeatedly, you get better at it. And so I write my books in diary format primarily because that's what I'm most experienced in, and secondly I think because a journey unfolds day by day, and so that's why I write about it in that format, because the journeys do not start with the big drama, the big accident or the love scene or everything. They start as you leave the UK and leave what's familiar and gradually go into the unfamiliar. So yes, I tend to write in diary format. Is this going to be in my diary? It will absolutely be in my diary, yeah, although the thing about diary is you're honest. You don't lie to your diary, so therefore my books are very honest. But having said that, when I write about this experience in this interview in my diary, I will probably say that I came across spectacularly better than I actually am. That I wouldn't rule out anywhere. It's just that the East attracts me, and also I think it's such a gradual progression, because once you've got across the channel, you go slowly into the less familiar. You get to where there's horse and carts as opposed to trucks, and then you get to where there's a Cyrillic alphabet. You can no longer read what's said. That goes on into Islamic states, and again things just slowly become less familiar. And I like that. You're not suddenly thrown wide-eyed into a culture that you haven't experienced. So when I do come across people with guns and roadblocks of armed military police or whatever, it's not quite such a shock, because it's been something that's slowly been happening. What's the worst thing about travelling? I suppose when what you've saved for, what you've yearned for, what you've thought about non-stop doesn't deliver. When you have those bad days, when you haven't had any company, when you've been ripped off, lost something, when you've been soaked through, when you can't find a hotel, when you're hungry, those miserable days that inevitably happen no matter what aspect of life you're going through. I suppose that's the downside. I think particularly because I travel alone as well, those problems can be really magnified and get out of proportion. And equally, when you do have a day where you're sitting by a campfire next to a raging river, there's snow-capped mountains which are lit by a full moon, and that's when you think you want to do that every day for the rest of your life. Well, I've always ridden motorbikes since before I even had a motorcycle licence. Before I was old enough to ride motorbikes, I've had motorbikes. So I've always had them. That's always been a constant in my life. And the other thing I've always done is travel, whether it's been backpack or bicycle. I've always travelled, and I can't believe it took me like 25 years to put the two together and realise I could travel on a motorbike. And when I did figure that out, I've never looked back. The loneliness thing is, do you get lonely? I've spent 17 years driving a truck, and so I'm pretty used to my own company. But like anything, it's about moderation, and you can get too much of your own company, and company doesn't necessarily come when you want it. So There can be times when you can be so introspective and you actually worry about when you are going to meet someone, if you're going to, spittle's going to fly from your dried lips as you try and entertain them and tell them who you are, and that you're looking so desperate for company, like a little lost puppy, that perhaps you may come across so needy. This is a answer, I'm really sorry.
James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.